we are in the process of going live.
Excellent. Welcome. Can you hear that noise on me?
Yes.
Welcome. Let me just go run and shut the door.
Is there an airplane?
That's the noise just went live with us too. Hi, my name is Betsy. Welcome to the Betsy Freeman booking page in our event. Advice to stay afloat, dear 2020. I can see we're live in our page. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So I've got 3 wonderful guests and clients here with me that I've known for some years, and I've been very privileged to call them my friends and fellow artists along the journey of life. And we've made it this far through 2020, and we've learned some things. And while I go shut the door, I'm going to hand off to Maia to introduce herself and tell us a little about what 2020 has done for her.
Thanks, Betsy. Hi, everyone. I'm Maia Kiva. I'm a motivational speaker and a coach. I teach creative writing in treatment center. I talk a lot to my emotions. That's my specialty. I have a podcast where I interview my feelings every episode, and I have an Instagram account, Maia Kiva Feelings. And so if you're into, stalking your feelings and talking to them, I'm the right person for you. So come by and say hi.
And super fun podcast.
Thank you. 2020, 2020 has actually externally been very good for me. My business exploded. I've got new clients. I've grown my business. I've been making more money than I've ever made. Which I believe is because of all the work I've done in 2019, because the benefits always come a little bit later. So to my luck, I did a lot of self-trauma work in 2019, and it manifested, I think, itself in 2020. But on an emotional level, 2020 has been definitely hard for me too, just like everybody else. It was actually, the good thing that came out of it was learning that I do have coping skill, and then I can get through hardship, because I have not had a lot of hardship in my life. So this was definitely, even though it wasn't an external hardship, it was an emotional connection hardship, again, like everybody else. And I learned a lot about myself and what's important to me and what works for me. So, and I've done a lot of different kind of trauma work because of all the stuff that came up for me during the quarantine. So it's a mixed bag, but it's okay. And I'm here, and I'm looking forward to answering your questions and talk about it. I'm talking about 2020.
And am I next in the clockwiseness?
Yes, you are, Cortney. Thank you.
So I'm Cortney Matz. I live in Los Angeles. I'm from Virginia, the Washington, D.C. area, where I was mostly raised and born. I was definitely born there, mostly raised there. But I've been trying to kind of find my way in LA for, the past 7 years. And then I came out of 2019, that is, thinking, okay, something really important has to change right now. Like I've been trying a bunch of things. I have a lot of interests. I have a lot of possibilities, but nothing is really lighting me up in terms of like, this is my path, And so that was my goal for this year, 2020, was to figure out what the heck I'm doing. I was getting ready to turn 40. I was just kind of tired of living hand to mouth and having a lot of fun, trying a lot of things, but I just needed to settle on something. I felt like once I pick one thing that I'm going to do, then I can focus on it and really make it go. So that was what I was all geared up to do. And then mid-March, I ran into some hurdles with that. Mostly a lot of the gigs that I had lined up, I was all ready to make music like the thing that I was going to do with all of my time. And all of the gigs that I had lined up just went away. So that was very sad. There was a lot of grieving that went into the first, 10, 20, 30 days of the pandemic shutdown. And it was a real, like it's one thing to say, okay, I'm going to be super focused this year. And then there's another thing to actually confront this surprise that everybody had to confront all at the same time, and it all affected us in different ways. And at the time, unemployment income was not available to freelancers or people who are self-employed. So I was just like, well, I got to figure something out. But that really forced me to get clear on what are my marketable skills, what are the things that I can do really well on repeat, and what is an immediate need in the marketplace and in the world. Like I was feeling the grief of people and just that sudden loss. Like it really was like, we're so full of ideas and plans for 2020, and then and so it was just this massive grieving process that everybody was in, especially in a town that's all about live performance. I mean, this is why people come here, is to be able to use their skills and bring people together. So that was the beginning of really getting very specific about what I was trying to do with my career and with my time, and committing to it, recognizing this is important. What I do is I bring people together in community, and that is really necessary, especially now that we're all separated and isolated. So I started a business in quarantine, and it's been really hard and it's been really fun, and I've had a lot of ups and downs with it. I host online dinner parties that are murder mysteries that I write, and the kicker with that is that I was kind of in the middle of this sort of, is this what I want to be doing? Is this taking too much focus away from music? And then I got a message from the New York Times, and they wanted to come to one of my shows, which I didn't have any scheduled at that moment. So I had to quickly kind of make that work. So that all that to say, that got me into a mode of, let's just stick with this and see where it can go. I had a bunch of ideas that came from that kind of catalyst moment. And now here we are at the end of October. I think I'm positive for the year. I think I've made money. I haven't actually done my accounting yet for the last month. But I'm now in a position where I've been able to hire other people to work for me. And that's really exciting, so that I'm able to bless others. And I've seen a lot of people come together through starting that business. And so that's helped touch that isolation that I was definitely feeling, and that I was sad to see other people feeling and wanted to help with. So there's, I wouldn't say that I've figured everything out, but I definitely am on a path that I wouldn't have been on if at the end of last year I hadn't been like, all right, let's figure this out. Let's do something for real, So I'm really excited to be here with all of these fine ladies, and happy to hear their stories, and looking forward to chatting with you who are listening. And yeah, Jennylyn, how did you get here? What is your life like in 2020?
So that was really fun to hear, Maia and Cortney. I've never heard your guys' story. That was great. We've been chatting about mostly just this. So yeah, I can relate to everything you ladies have said. I've had such a winding path in my life. And I think the centerpiece of my path was always singing and music. And that's taken different forms. At times it was one genre, and then for many years it was classical and opera. And now I've been doing more just things on social media from home, as we all are in the pandemic. So I feel like the quarantine, it was kind of like what Maia said, like many things that had happened in the past couple of years had basically prepped me mentally for what was going to unfold in 2020. So of course it hit me just like everybody else. And of course I had all the same challenges that everyone else has had, but I had been through some really big challenges in my life back in like about 2017, 2018, when I had decided to move across the country, make some big leaps and pivots in my career. I went broke during that time. So I've seen,
Awesome.
I know what it's like to be down to, your last few dollars for bread and some water. And I know what that feels like. So that prepared me basically to go into 2020. I think more resilient. I'm a lot tougher. I'm not afraid of financial challenges. I think they're a part of life. They come and they go. Money comes in, money flows out, money comes in, money flows out. So I'm really grateful for that. And for me, 2020 was overall a very good year. I feel a lot of suffering in my heart when I see other people suffering. Like, it definitely like affects me and it makes me really sad. I know there's a lot of people, like Cortney said, that couldn't get on unemployment. That was very concerning for me. You know, just to see the homeless population, to see people struggling in so many ways. It affected me a lot to see that. So I was very concerned. At the same time, I knew this pandemic is going to come and it's going to eventually go. So who am I going to be at the end of this? And what do I want to do in my life to leave the pandemic? Hopefully a wealthier, if I can, but more importantly, a smarter and more confident and more aligned or heart-centered woman. So I just wanted to use this time mostly for personal growth because, you know, we're all stuck at home. I happen to like that. I love being home. So it worked out okay for me. But yeah, that's kind of my story. Betsy, you want to jump in?
Thank you. And Jenny and I actually met working on an opera together over 7 years ago. And I think, so a little about me, since I didn't really introduce myself, is I have been a writer and a musician for a long time. And I've worked a lot of different office type jobs. But in this past few years, I transitioned more into working in ministry, working for a church as a secretary, and teaching students piano, which I really love. And then before COVID, actually had started making plans to move out of Los Angeles, where I had been for somewhere between 14 and 15 years, to live with my grandfather and his wife in Washington State. And so when I started making those plans, which was a year ago, it was, you know, at this time last year, I was singing in an opera. I actually, exactly 1 year ago, I was singing a role in an opera. It was like the biggest role I'd ever had, which is really exciting. Then I was in a really scary car accident the very next day. And so I was dealing with a lot of big changes and transitions and recovery a few months before COVID hit. But I already had this plan starting in November 2019 that I was going to move. So I'm thankful for that plan, which I thought was really more about, I mean, it was about family, certainly, and it was about making a big change that was both for me and for my family. But it turned out that there was also going to be a big global crisis that I didn't know about. So I had a lot of, in the first half of 2020, a lot of planning and changes that seemed very much just alone. And then it seemed to be that actually everyone was going to be making some kinds of drastic changes in their lives. So I still have, like, personally struggled a lot with, you know, the ups and downs of job loss, job changes, feeling lonely, all that kind of stuff. That's sort of to me, that's like a normal Los Angeles thing. We all have different backgrounds, but we've all lived in California because that's where we've all gotten to know each other. I think that's been, so in 2020, now I find myself living in a completely new city in Charlotte, North Carolina, which I have never lived here before, and working in a completely new job as communications director on a campaign. So we're just in crunch time now. I'm taking a few, you know, it's really fun to do this, do something a little bit different. I actually really love what I'm doing. My job is awesome. Yeah, so I would say 2020 has been full of shocks and surprises, but also gifts. And I'm learning how to be just more centered and peaceful myself and not to be so rocked. Mm-hmm. That's I think my big takeaway from this year so far. So let's start out with our first question from folks who wrote into Google Forms. And we're gonna have Jenny answer this question first, and then Maya and Cortney, we're gonna come to you. So our first question is, how do you stay positive and hopeful while broke and on unemployment?
Yeah, so anyone who's an artist who's it has been broke. I don't know one artist that has not gone through some point in their career where they were dirt broke. So like I said, guys, that happened to me in 2017. And I was kind of spending the last couple of years recovering from that and getting everything back. And God was really amazing, and he restored everything to me and more. One thing I learned during a time of being broke was that happens, everything that comes our way happens for good reason. And it's really difficult to feel that way in the moment. I remember my darkest night was when all my jewelry, makeup, skincare was stolen. And you girls know me, I'm a fashionista. Like, I need my jewelry, I need my makeup, I need my skincare. It was stolen out of a duffel bag, and that was all I had left, basically. And I was down to, like I said, a couple dollars, and it was just a very trying time. And I remember looking out the window of my car as I was driving around going, God, I'm not sure anymore if I really believe in you. I'm not really sure anymore in your plan for my life. But the funny thing is that had that not happened, I would never have moved to New York. That was the catalyst that got me to New York. Now, New York was a lifelong dream of mine. I had fantasized about living in New York. I always knew everything was going to happen for me here, but I was stuck in LA because I had a business. I had work with different opera companies. I was working as a church singer as well. I was kind of like rooted there. So had that not happened, I would have never gone to New York. So once I came to New York, the long and short of it, guys, was just the way I tell my students and people on my podcast is everything kind of turned to gold. I don't really know what else to say. It was once I got here, the floodgates opened, doors kept opening. And I found that I was in a new space of inspired action rather than like a salmon swimming upstream, trying to force life, trying to strong arm life, trying to make things happen. Like, something about going broke had shifted my thinking. And I was no longer interested in strong arming life or God's will in my life. So
that's a great way
now,
to put it. I love that. Yeah.
So I began to just allow the doors to open, and I just kept walking through the open doors, and I was fine to accept the closed doors. That was fine. They just weren't for me. And so basically, long story short of it, I feel as though keeping a positive attitude when you're broke, or if you're on unemployment, or maybe you're new to starting a business and the money has not been flowing yet, it is about mindset, guys. It really is. It's about understanding that there's value in even those low moments. I always tell people, like, in the lowest moments of my life was when I was growing and shifting and changing the most. And it was really helping me to prep for great things that were coming my way. So it's about mindset and knowing that, this too shall pass. Nothing's for forever. And soon enough, you'll be in your comfy bed again, laughing with your girlfriends. A few years will pass, and you will look back and literally laugh at how overdramatic you were and how upset you were during those low moments, because they come and they go, and this too shall pass. So
that's so good. Thank you. Maya, do you want to go next?
Sure. My answer, or my experience, it's very similar to Jenny. I just from a different point of view. What you call mindset, Jenny, I call as personal responsibility or personal healing. Because what happened to me was I was also could not make any money for years and years and years. And a few years ago, I had this epiphany that there is so much abundance and wealth in the world that there's just like no reason for me not to experience it. It just like it's all around us. It's like the metaphor of the sand. Look at how much sand there is. It's like endless. And I really, really kept believing it. I kept believing it, but nothing would have changed. Nothing changed. I would take action and still nothing changed. And what I do in my life, what I believe in, is that what blocks me is my past trauma, and I have a lot of trauma. So whenever I get to a place when I'm really, really blocked, I go and I start do some trauma work. And that's what I did. I did survivor / thriving trauma work, and with the belief that I completely believe, I just do not think there's not enough for me or for anybody else. And it completely changed everything. And I had a very similar experience to you of moving to New York. Mine was getting out of, healing trauma, I guess. Doors just kept opening, and my business just exploded and kept growing and growing and growing and growing. Yeah, and I totally contribute that to trauma work, which is what I did again in quarantine. It's the different trauma showed up, more like connections and depression, and kind of like being alone with myself. And I kept doing that. So that's what I always tell people: find out where is your blocks and start working on them, start healing, start bringing a lot of healing to them, because that's where the shifts happens.
Mm-hmm. Shifts
Cortney?
happen. I love it. Yeah, well, and it's true because a lot of what you see when you have no money is just none. Like you just see lack of opportunity. You see endings. You see sadness, and there have been some times where I literally had $0. And not that I couldn't have asked people for help, and I have asked people for help. It's so hard to ask for help. You want to be sufficient. You want to just have like enough money. I think that's a reasonable plan, to just kind of like be making enough from whatever you do for a living most of the time, to just like be okay, even when trouble hits. And so it's hard when you've been kind of like down on your luck, and then you're starting to climb back up, and then you fall back down again. A lot of times because of circumstances beyond your control. And it's so easy to just focus on what you don't have. And not that that's not, part of it. It's like, yeah, it sucks to like be like, I would really like to eat a salad for lunch, but I can't buy vegetables right now because I just only have $1, And there's been times where a friend of mine is like, I'm going to the store. Do you need anything? And I was like, well, I would like a salad, but I don't have any money to pay for it. And she was like, well, I can just get you a salad. It's fine. And it was like a $4 expenditure, but it was just hard to ask for that. So I think part of having that mindset shift is just to, if you have a spiritual life, if you believe in a higher power of some kind, just ask them for help. Ask them for help. And then ask them for help to let you ask for help. Like, who can you ask? Because nobody wants to just always be calling Betsy, going, Betsy, I need help, every single time you need help. It's easier to have like one go-to person, but Betsy's going to get burnt out pretty quick. The thing is, we all have a network of people. If you have relationships, then you are rich. You really are. And so to focus on those people that are in your life, and not just what you're asking them for, but what you've already built into that connection. Hopefully you have people in your life that you have given to, that you have not just financially, but you've invested your time and your energy in them, and in those connections, and then they're there for you when you just need something. You just need someone to talk to. You need someone to like help you figure out how to rearrange your room. You need some ideas on how to grow your business. Like, these are all resources that are vital. They're vital to overcoming any kind of down on your luckness, whether it's financial or emotional or spiritual. So that's really been the thing that's kept me going when I really had $0 was, and not sure how to get more, honestly, because that's the hardest part, when you are like, I don't have any money and I don't know how to get any money other than robbing a bank or some sort of thing, which I'm not going to do by the grace of God. So yeah, I think part of that mindset shift, here's where I'm trying to get with this, is to recognize that my resistance to ask for help is not correct. Like, I think a lot of us think we should be able to do everything ourselves. That's just never true. It's never been true. We've always needed each other. Please hear me on this. We have always needed each other. We've always needed something from each other. And maybe it just kind of happened more naturally before, where you're just around people, and so it's just kind of more easy to flow with that. But you've never been self-sufficient. Does anybody believe me?
I completely believe you. Thank you. I
Yeah.
love that. You know, when I was, I think it was probably 12 or 13 years ago, maybe even more, when I was between jobs and really frustrated because on top of being between jobs and doing everything I knew how to do and still not having a job, I couldn't find my phone. And I have one of those little candy bar Nokia phones. And my roommate, you know, who lives more in a mindset of abundance and thankfulness, you know, so I would say my first answer to that question is like, find some things to be thankful for, you know, be thankful that you have a phone, be thankful if you have a place to sleep, you know, try to find a way to genuinely, you know, and even if you can't feel it in your heart, say it anyway. And I bet you can make a list of some amazing things that you do have. If you have a living parent, if you have a cat, if you have a sister, you know, if you have one friend, if you have a hotline, whatever it is that you have, you know, try to remember that you're not alone and there's something you be thankful for, because it took me a long time to remember that that's supposed to be my reaction when something is taken away. So, but also that same roommate, you know, finally it was around Christmas and she had put up some lights and she, you know, she tried to get me out of my frustration by saying, you know, go, you know, come look at the lights that I put up on the wall. So I went and got my bathrobe. Guess what was in my bathrobe pocket?
Your
My
phone.
phone. You know? And I thought, you know, that is really God laughing at me and showing me that he wants me to relax. And I think this year was the year that I started to understand every time I feel this horrible sensation that everything is being torn away from me, my response needs to be, I know I'm going to be okay. Not, oh no, what's going to happen? It needs to be, I know I'm going to be okay because I've been through a lot of stuff already. I've survived dreadful car accidents and very near miss things. I don't know how. I can't see everything in the universe that transpired to keep me going, but here I am. So I am going to be okay. And I'm going to help other people to be okay. So if I can volunteer and I can get out and do something for somebody else, even if all I can do is wave and smile, that's not nothing. And you're valuable. You know, don't forget that your bank account has nothing to do with how valuable you are.
That's right.
That's really important. Nothing to do with it. And if you start valuing yourself that way, that's your biggest mistake. And it's a mistake that I made for a really long time. So,
Annie says, I find that whenever I'm down about anything, being thankful is a great way to pull into a more positive mindset. So yeah, it just helps you to see a little bit bigger picture. You're not so honed in on this one thing that's not going well. You can kind of see this is not going well and this is. So great. Now let's see if we can widen out a little more.
So you can go there. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Here's the next question. All right. I think this one we're going to start with Cortney.
Okay.
To answer. What do I do when it seems someone I'm close to just can't understand the kind of grief and frustration I'm in? I feel like I don't know this person anymore because they totally whiffed it when I needed someone to lean on. I thought they would understand and listen to me and know the right thing to say, but they didn't.
Oh man, that's so disappointing. I just want to say to the person who asked that question, I'm so sorry that that happened to you. I'm sure that I might have been the person that did that, honestly. I resonate with both sides of that question. I've been the one who whiffed it and I've been the one who needed to lean on somebody and there was no one there. And it's really tough. I mean, that's the trick with being human is sometimes you just meet people in a weird place, you know, and I love to tell this story. One of my closest friends now, when I first met her, I was completely convinced that she didn't like me, didn't want anything to do with me. What I found out later was that it was about 2 months before her dad passed away. He'd been really sick with cancer and she was going back and forth to help take care of him. And I didn't know that. I just knew I'm trying to make a connection with this new person that I really like, and she's just not into it. And that, you know, bodes ill for our future. And what's wrong with me, you know? So it's so easy to go to those places. The truth is that we just are always encountering one another in the middle of something. And a lot of times we can be there for one another. Sometimes we just can't. And whether that person, I think it is hard. It's hard. It's disappointing to be in that space where you're just like, I needed them and they couldn't be there. But also recognize maybe next time You know, it might be good to just kind of step back and say, okay, this person couldn't be there for me right at this particular moment. Let me try someone else. And then Brene Brown talks about building trust like putting quarters in a jar. You know, so if you've lost that trust, maybe you lost some quarters out of a jar, but maybe try putting one more in there at another time where it's like a small thing that you can trust them with, and see if that is a trustworthy relationship still before putting all of your quarters into the jar. Um, so I found that to be a helpful mindset as someone who struggles with detachment and wanting to just keep people at arm's length anyway, to avoid that kind of disappointment and hurt. A lot of my songs are about that, the bravery that it takes to like step out and trust people and learn to love one another, because it's hard. It's never really like a straightforward if this then that. So I recognize that this is a challenging process, and I think it's worthwhile to keep trying. Let's see. Christopher Michael Fairchild says, "Love this discussion, and it's just so good to see your face and hear your voice, Miss Betsy."
Oh, thank you, Christopher. You're such a sweetheart. We
And
love
then
you.
Annie says it can be helpful to identify specific ways people can help you, even if it's just listening and being clear about asking for those things. That's great. I agree with that. Thanks, Annie.
That is really good. I love that. Jenny, do you want to weigh in on this question?
That was a great answer, Courtney. I think to tag team off of that, one thing to remember is that people can't give you what they don't have. So we go into relationships really wanting people to give us what we have in our head. And a lot of times people, I've learned this through life, like a lot of times people really are giving you their best.
That's right.
You know, it doesn't seem like that. You're like, okay, this is your best, boo. And it is their best. And you can think of that for yourself. Like you look back on the times you acted like a crazy cuckoo or, you know, whatever. And you're like, I hate to admit it, this is embarrassing, but that was the best I could do in this situation, you know, based off of just how I felt and what was going on in my heart and what other X factors are going on. And one of my best friends always says there's always an X factor, like Courtney mentioned. You just never know, you know, people are in the middle of things and you just never know what's going on. But I've learned that typically people treat us the way they feel about themselves. So if you meet somebody who loves themselves, who's done the inner work to love themselves, to accept themselves, you know, given that they're not a perfect person, in general, is gracious to themselves, forgiving of mistakes, they're probably going to give you that as well. So I think it's really important to love yourself and to take the journey of being very kind and gracious to yourself, and then allow yourself organically to meet more people that are kind of on that wavelength. And one last thing I'll say about it is I sort of give off this subconscious vibe, but I like to hang around people that are fun, that create fun and create joy. And if I feel like I'm just not having fun anymore, I'm not saying I don't love that person. I'm not saying that I won't check in with that person. I'm not saying things are over for us. I'm simply saying, like, I like to be around things that make me happy and are joyful and are fun. And so the more that I can radiate that to the world, I feel that I get that back threefold.
Good. That's so good. Maia?
Yeah, that's awesome, Jenny. Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said. And my take on it is very similar to what Annie shared in the chat, in the comments. What I learned is that I need to state my needs, because when I was a kid, stating my needs I was rejected when I said what I needed. So I just see that as a thing to stay away from. And when I started having adult healthy relationship, I would get really upset that they can't read my needs, and I had to learn that I need to state my needs. They might not be met, but then we can start communication, and everybody can share what they need, and they can tell me that they're not available to help me right now, and that's totally fine. Then I can go to somebody else and not be resented toward them for not helping me without even knowing that they're not available to help me, and it goes on and on and on. So that's, to me, is like the number one thing is stating your needs and then starting a dialogue about it and seeing if they can help you or be there for you, and if not, you can have feelings about it and you can be disappointed, but at least now it's an open communication and there's no like resentment stewing underneath it, and the relationship doesn't have to be hurt or suffered. That would be my advice.
That's really smart. That's really smart. And it goes along with what Jenny was saying too, that, we're all in a process of learning, and we didn't all get the same kind of training or learning experience in life. And so, if you are in a place where you can tell the person what you need, or you can model good listening behavior, good reflective, sympathetic listening, you might be helping give someone a skill that they never learned. And God knows that I've been working on it, because it is not it doesn't come natural to me. And for some people, it's a very natural gift. And I got spoiled, actually. I was surrounded by great listeners from day one, but that didn't make me a good listener automatically. It made me a good talker. So then I had to realize I've been working on it consciously for 7 years. So, and I'm still working on it. So my next question is for Maia to start. Let me find it again.
Yeah, listening is quite a skill.
What is?
At listening.
Yeah, it is. And, active listening is different from passive listening. I think that I was a passive listener, and people would ask me questions, people would come to me with things, but like, Jenny says, and you were saying this too, it doesn't mean the person doesn't love you. It doesn't mean the person doesn't care. It just means the person is either already drained to the max and has nothing left to give, or they just don't know how to do it. And so, I look back and I'm kind of embarrassed, and I'm sorry to anybody that didn't get what they needed from me, but yeah. I hope that they found it somewhere else. Same. And if they moved on, I understand. So this is for Maia first. I've been so busy trying to earn a living that it's hard to enjoy time with the friends I already have, let alone make new ones, if you catch my drift. How do people date with COVID?
Ooh, now we're getting juicy. All right.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear what you say about this, Maia.
Okay, well, thank you for asking, Betsy. I actually found my girlfriend during COVID. I tried for 2 years when there was no restriction, and I couldn't get it to happen.
I didn't even know this. All right.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but look, there's no right or wrong answers. Again, I think it's all the work I've done in 2019, manifested in 2020. The thing about healing is that it's so powerful. It moves mountain inside of you, working on trauma and healing, that the COVID and the quarantine did not stop the benefits of my healing to not happen because of COVID. It just happened while it was on COVID. But what I would say to that, and I've had many conversations with that. This is like the most talked about park conversation, when you go and have some food with your friends at the park. Is that, first of all, you have to do what is comfortable for you. Some people have no problem dating during this time. Some people do not leave the house. Some people don't want to meet anybody that has been around other people. Some people don't care. And it's about talking with yourself and finding out, first of all, what is your comfort level, and by that you can decide what action you want to take. But before I met my girlfriend, I did date a few people during COVID, and it's kind of like, it's just a weird take on dating, because you have to be super honest, which, it's a little bit hard when you just meet somebody, but you have to be honest, and describe to them are you around a lot of people. Like if you work in a hospital, they have to know, maybe they will not want to be around you in this period of time. Like you have to be honest, and you kind of have to, you don't have to, but that's like what I decided was the best way to go, is you have to kind of be monogamous or right from the start, even though it's not really monogamy, but it's like dating exclusively just until we get to know each other. And then what I did is this was my comfort level, is take 2 weeks off before you date somebody new. So you kind of use and do social distancing activity in the beginning, obviously, before you see if you even like them the first few times. So kind of like use the tools that we already have, and not like the old days when you can go on 4 dates a night and it will be fine. You can, and it's not that you can't do right now. It's not recommended by the by the doctors. So that's kind of like the process. Use what works for you, and but people, I can tell you that people are very lonely right now. So actually people are looking for more dating. It's actually the dating world actually expanded because there's nothing else to do, and also people are lonely and they want to find somebody to hang out with.
So follow up to that. Are you meeting people? I mean, obviously you're monogamous with your girlfriend now, but before, were you meeting people specifically through dating apps or through like online activities, through like, social gatherings? How are you meeting people to date?
I use apps, but
Oh.
that's just me. But people, I've heard people met people through Zoom social hours. I mean, you know what I mean? Like somebody, because you still just hang out and you can kind of like chat to the side while everybody else is doing their thing. And I mean, keep your eyes open. Everybody's looking for connection now more than ever. And we can still meet people. We just can go to a room full of people, but there's Zooms and there's one-on-one or a few friends distance park activities and outside activities. Yeah, it is possible.
That's good.
Awesome. Cortney or Jenny, we don't have much time left. This time has really flown by.
It really has.
I want to say before we talk about this a little more, that all of you ladies are available for one-on-one coaching and mentoring. Is that right? And whether it's about creativity or helping you emotionally cope, or maybe you have some career retooling and you would really like to, talk it out with someone, that all of your links and Facebook information should be easily findable in our event page. And of course, you can always reach out to me if you have any questions about any of my clients, because I should know the answers. If I don't, I'll find out for you.
Awesome. Jenny, did you meet somebody during COVID?
Yeah, like I think that COVID is the best time to meet the love of your life. And I say to my mentees and to my voice students, I joke around with them and I say, I know you all have been hesitating to do online dating or app dating, but the time is now. This is our only option. So, do the basics, like don't catfish him, or her, put up a cute, natural, look normal, look like yourself, because you're going to blow them away when they see how cute you are in person. And it's the time to get out there. But that was great what Maia mentioned about like just little safety precautions, that you can take to make sure you're not, getting sick or anything, which is a really great idea. But now's the time. And I just think going forward from 2020 going forward, like, I just think it's going to be like that. I think most people are going to meet the love of their life over a basic dating app. I wouldn't be surprised. So now's the time to go ahead and do it. As long as the other person's healthy and you're healthy, go ahead and meet and take a walk somewhere, or grab a Starbucks and take a walk, or have a drink. Or
that's very sweet and very hopeful. And yes, and please observe all those other safety precautions about online dating too,
Right.
About, make sure a friend knows where you're going to be. Don't just like go over to somebody's place just because they say they're isolating. You know what I mean? Please don't do anything that puts you in a situation where you're alone with someone that you met for the first time,
And don't be afraid to ask for a test before you get intimate or before you have physical touch. It's totally it's the new norm. And you have a right to ask for what you need.
Good. Cortney, any last thoughts to close this out today?
It is 5:14 here in LA. So my last thoughts are just like, this is great. I'm glad that we can just talk about these things, and thank you everybody who submitted questions. It's good to hear all the collective wisdom that everybody has been learning, and that we all have access to. It's great.
Yes,
Betsy, for
and
getting
thank
to-
you, thank you to Deborah who did all the graphics for our event and came and planned with us. We'd love to do these again. We'll have a big event coming up December 6th. So stay tuned. If you'd like to be on our mailing list for that, please post a comment, let us know, and we will be emailing out information about that event soon. Save that date, December 6th, for some more heart work that we can all do together. All right. Bye,
Okay.
everyone.
Thank you everybody for watching.
Bye.
Adios. Let me, yeah.